when I say there are texts or teachers that make utterances that are in some sense premonitory relative to the seventh stage of life, I am fundamentally pointing at utterances that see the world as nothing but the self. In other words, that have some quality of recognizing the world in the self, or as being nothing but the self. It's not the same as divine self-recognition. It's not the process of the outshining of phenomena. It doesn't have that import, and that's not what's being said. But what is being said is suggestive of a kind of seventh stage utterance, in that, as in the Tripura Rahasya, for instance, Hamaleka, the wife of Hamakuta, teaches him this non-dual truth, and he's sitting and meditating on it and being all kinds of blissful and so forth, and he's disturbed by his daily obligations as a royal of some sort, and she says, "What? The distance between the eyelids is no wider than a grain of rice is the difference between realization and bondage." So he realizes he can function and perceive that there can be mental and physical forms apparently arising, and still he could abide as the self. Well, this is an example of sixth-stage sahaja nirvikalpa samadhi. This is what Maharshi means by realization, but what he's indicating by seeing the world as the self, this is the declaration, is that it doesn't have any independence from the self, but on the other hand, there is this abiding as the self, as being not the world, not the phenomena, simultaneous with the affirmation that the phenomena that do appear are mere appearances, and they are nothing but the self. So it's a paradoxical declaration. It doesn't ultimately wind up outshining the world. It is just able to be associated with the world, apparently, while abiding as the self. So it is the natural state of nirvikalpa samadhi, sahaja nirvikalpa samadhi, in this sixth stage sense, valued in the tradition of Advaita Vedanta and valued by Ramana Maharshi, as opposed to methods of yoga that lead to a state of absorption, however that is presumed in this sixth stage tradition. It's absorption in the transcendental self. In fifth stage traditions, it's absorption in the light of the Sahasrara, or however it may be described, and so on. It's different in each stage of life, each school, and so forth. This is not the realization I'm describing to you in terms of the seventh stage process and the event of the seventh stage awakening. The seventh stage process and the awakening that is its foundation is associated with what I describe as the regeneration of Amrita Nadi. It is the realization of the conscious light, the one condition of conditions, not merely the consciousness end of the spectrum or dimension of it, not merely the subjective side of it, but everything it is the condition of everything. Everything subjective, everything objective, everything conditional, gross, subtle, or causal. When there is the establishment of this divine self-condition, not merely the transcendental self-condition, there is the divine self-recognition of conditions. And this appears as a process of 4 stages of demonstration, which I've described as the process of the 7th stage of life, which ultimately is demonstrated as divine translation, or the outshining of all conditions. So it is not merely a matter of self-abiding and being indifferent to karmic conditions. It is divine self-identification, tacit, native, uncaused, without dependence on any conditionality or anything gross, subtle, or causal, or anything of a cosmic nature. And recognizing all arising conditions as merely apparent, unnecessary, and non-binding modifications of that. That force of recognition shows signs of divine transfiguration, divine transformation, divine indifference, ultimately divine translation. Not by dissociation from phenomena or feeling they are the self but they are karmic happenings, but by the force of recognition, ultimately to the degree of the outshining of conditions in the bright. In that outshining, in that effectively brightening of the bright, you see, to the perfect degree, to use a metaphor, conditions are no longer perceived. They are not merely a matter of indifference. They cannot be seen as if you experienced such a light that was so bright that it overwhelmed your eyesight and you couldn't perceive objects. So all perception, all mental states, all conditions, gross, subtle, and causal, are outshined, ultimately. Egoity itself is transcended in the realization that's the basis of the 7th stage of life. Conditions are outshined in divine translation, which is the ultimate demonstration of the 7th stage of life. And that is the unique realization that I have revealed to you, and it is not present in the traditions. You see, this is not the 6th stage realization, and it's not to be found in any traditions. Wherever you find language that maybe sounds to you, there must be something like that. You see, it's just because the language is being suggestive to you. It is not an indication of the same realization. You will not find a description of this 7th stage process anywhere in the traditions. But you will find utterances that sound something like finding an equation between apparent objects and the self. That's the perspective of Sahaja Nirvikalpa Samadhi, whether 5th or 6th stage, you see, or even in the 4th stage context, which actually becomes something like a 5th stage realization ultimately. And it's just a form of tacit philosophical understanding of the nature of things, rather than evidence of a realization and a demonstration of realization that is actually the substance of conditions, the ultimate substance in which they are apparent, manifesting itself with ever-increasing intensity to the point where they no longer appear. But that is the 7th stage process I am describing and demonstrating to you.